A beautiful, moving tribute to remember Officer Rob Pitts. The funeral lasting about an hour and 15 minutes inside the Holman Center. Now, tell us, Scott, what we can expect as people will start filing out of the Holman Center.
Well, you'll hear the pianist, Lieutenant Wolf, who did a phenomenal job, as he usually does. He'll continue playing. The officers will begin a reverse file by opposite of the way that they came in. And they'll go outside and they'll go in formation because there'll be some other ceremonies that will take place outside as Rob is being placed in the coach.
Okay. The video there, you're still looking inside live at the Holman Center. You talked about the pianist, Lieutenant Brian Wolf from the Marion County Sheriff's Department. He sang and played the musical tribute Amazing Grace. Now, you said this is a different version.
It's still Amazing Grace, but it's the Policeman's Tribute version. And as you heard the words, maybe most people have not heard it before, but I can assure you any police officer who's attended a funeral or more have the words memorized. And that's a sad thing to say, but Brian, phenomenal job. He's done it for so long, unfortunately, but he does just a great job. Well,
you were singing the words a little to yourself, and are there words to that song that stand out?
Well, it all does. You know, again, just everybody, I would imagine, like I do, thinks back to the day they were sworn in, raised their right hand. Why are we doing what we do? And we should be thinking that every day as police officers, and again, we do. But some of those words, yeah, definitely jar maybe a call that I was on or other officers were on, or again, that initial oath that we took with our right hand. That's what jars it for me.
You know, one of the things that was mentioned over and over again, as you heard about Rob, was that he chose to be a peacemaker. He loved this job that he did. They referred to him as the shepherd. He was at home and at work. We're going to head back out. Chief John Plassey is walking out of the Holman Center right now, and let's watch this for just a moment. Scott, as we're watching this, you said that the chief will start this whole process. Tell us what will happen.
Yeah, he'll be the starting point, and everybody else will fall into formation to the side of him and then subsequently behind him. So it'll be the chief, all his administration, then you'll have all the rest of Terre Haute PD, probably the U.S. Marshals that are in this area since he worked on the task force. Rob worked on the task force along with street crimes, and then closer jurisdictions and so on down all the way to outside agencies.
When you say formation, is there a particular shape this formation will take?
So they try to get it as close as possible, yes, to everything they're trying to do at a 45 degree. So 45 degree based on whatever the center point is out there. It's a little tough to do so when you have a square building and then around or curved sidewalks around it, as you can see in this shot. A little difficult to do, but you'll notice the formation here shortly.
Interesting. A 45-degree angle, you say?
Yes. If you watch the officers when they stand in attention, you'll see everything's based off the military as well. So you'll see their feet splayed or spread at a 45-degree angle from each other when their heels are touching, and you'll see the salutes are 45-degree angles. Even at the wrist area, it's a 45-degree angle, and that's specific based on protocol.
Okay. Tradition.
Tradition.
Again, steeped in tradition. This will be a long process. It took about 45 minutes to file in at the beginning of the funeral, probably a little bit quicker to file out, but they will be in formation. Lots of really great things that were said during this funeral. First of all, the Chief John Plassey, and also the chaplain there at the end, they were all calling for stop the violence. Let's stop the violence. Our brothers and sisters are getting killed in this. It's a scary time we live in now.
It is, and you look, I'll go back to the thin blue line between order and chaos, between our community and chaos. One of the things you asked me earlier, a policeman lost his life today, the reason why I cannot say, that was part of the lyrics. And I think that pretty much sums up everything. we can't give a reason why. And why would you do this to us? We're the ones trying to stop this from happening in the first place, from somebody trying to stop somebody from hurting someone else, and yet we're the ones that end up with the ultimate sacrifice.
Absolutely. And in this case, Officer Rob Pitts was investigating a homicide that had just happened in our city, and this happened. They also referred to the mother a lot, Rob's mother. I loved the line that Mr. Adamson had said about, Mama always has to be happy. And in this case, I'm sure she was very pleased at the tribute for her son.
Yeah, I hope so, and that's the objective. Again, the best we can do is the least we can do, and we do this for the family. What they would like, what they need first and foremost, then what they want and what they would like to have, and we try to incorporate all of those aspects.
Now, Scott took part in, tell us what you did this morning there, to getting ready for the funeral, all the flowers, getting them in a particular order and so forth. So
it is a lot of moving parts. First thing this morning, so the flowers, and try to get the logistics and just the appearance in symmetrical shape and order. There was so many different sizes and variations and colors. So you want to be pretty even, when you look like you saw on the stage. Plus setting up the memorial component itself, making sure the flags are straight. There's so much that goes into it.
Well, you want it to be perfect for your friend and for your colleague.
And that's the last thing the family's going to remember. And quite frankly, probably most police officers are going to remember seeing that. So everything that they see, hear, taste, touch, smell will be with them for the rest of their lives. So we do whatever we can so they will have that last memory.
Well, what's really neat, too, we were talking about some of those flowers. The Yankees baseball organization called a local flower shop here in Terre Haute earlier this week and ordered a display, a very respectful display. Apparently, the Yankees do this for all fallen first responders across the nation. And you said that the Pacers organization sent a flower arrangement. It was fun to be a Pacers fan this year, and I'm sure Rob enjoyed some of those basketball games.
I'm guessing most people down in this area are huge Pacer fans, and that doesn't surprise me. Again, with the Yankees, that's the first I heard of that as well, that they have done that for every officer.
Yes.
That's outstanding.
Across the nation, in addition to all of those other beautiful arrangements that we saw. We heard some gorgeous music, some country music that certainly tug at all of our heartstrings. Once in a While was played, and that was Greg Pitt's dedication to his brother. There was a dedication also by Bobby Noel, who is Rob's mom, and that was the I Can Only Imagine song that just tears me up every time I hear it. And of course, the wonderful Amazing Grace tribute, a policeman's tribute, that booming, glorious voice that we heard of that gentleman. We also want to mention that, I don't know if you noticed, we're going to ask John Swanner here this a little bit, but one of the gentlemen, Kurt Bedwell, one of the family friends, was in a T-shirt that is a memorial to Rob as well. We're going to find out a little bit more about that.
I'm curious as well, because this is the first I've seen it fully displayed, so I'm curious to hear behind that.
Some of the things that we want to mention, too, that you had said that, ironically, Police Week is next week. Tell me about that, what will happen. That is in honor of the fallen, isn't it?
It is. So from 2017, there won't be any names from 2018. Those will be added next year. So they're always a year behind, if you will. So there's over 300 names that will be etched into that wall again. That's going to put us pretty close to 22,000 overall since this started. By next fall, hopefully the museum itself, the police museum itself, will be open. Maybe even this fall. That's what we're actually looking forward to. All the memorabilia. People will see, again, flowers and stuffed animals and notes and you name it on the wall itself, like we saw on Officer Pitts' car. That will all be on every one of the, on top of all the walls out there. That is never gotten rid of. Everything is kept. Nothing is disposed of. So they obviously needed a huge facility. But that's all next week. There's a whole bunch. There's candlelight vigils. There's many things that go on. It's pretty much a non-sleep 3 or 4 days.
So this time next year, we will see Officer Rob Pitt's name etched on that wall.
Yes.
A marble wall?
Yes.
Okay, it'll be engraved on that marble wall for all to see in the nation of the sacrifice that he has made. You are looking outside the Holman Center as this formation is lining up, starting with Chief John Plassey. Chief Plassey has been a rock, honestly, through all of this, but it was so touching to see him Friday night in the press conference that he held and how he broke down and said, I lost my friend. I lost my friend today. That's hard.
Very hard. Friend and a family member. We can choose to say they're not family members, but it's not optional. You become one when you raise that right hand.
Sure, sure. A lot of great speakers were at this funeral. Again, a very touching, touching ceremony. Senator Joan Donnelly said that this is a gaping wound, and I found that to be a perfect choice of words. It is a gaping wound for all of you in law enforcement and for this entire community. And he thanked the family of Rob for their son, for his dedication. A letter was written by Governor Holcomb that was read. But again, they all said, be the change, love one another in this community. And if something good can come out of this, let it be that.
Sure. And I would tell the community, I would implore the community, if you don't know a cop, meet one. Go up and introduce yourself. If you know one, you'll know them all. Mm-hmm. And I think that's probably one of the most important things that I think people can take away from this or should take away from this. We are approachable, we are human beings, we live, we die, but we need people to know us as human beings, as one person to another. There's no S underneath these uniforms on our chest. Mm-hmm. We're just like everyone else.
Sure. At the end of the service, they showed the signs, the community support signs, and you had said that you may not be a member of the Terre Haute community, but you're a member of the law enforcement community, and you were thanking us, even here at News 10, for the support and all of the community support that you were seeing.
That simple thank you from, whether it's a marquee, whether it's a little kid that I saw before, even yesterday, waving a little American flag. Mm-hmm. It's those things that mean so much to us, the little things that mean just a thank you, believe it or not, is probably better than winning the lottery when it comes to being a police officer. I'm telling you. Sure,
absolutely. You're taking a look at Memorial. There we go. There are some of those. I love that. Fly high officer pits. The community really came together. One of the ways that you can show your support is to line the procession route. Now, the folks will be leaving, the vehicles will be leaving to that procession route very soon. We want to show you maps, if we can bring those up. It's a very detailed procession route. Now, you had said, Scott, that there will be 574 vehicles involved in here. They will start from Holman Center, and they're first going to make a stop at the Terre Haute Police Department for the final call.
Yeah, yes.
Okay. Then they're going to go south down 13th Street to Erie Canal to McDaniel to 641. They'll get on 641 South, get off on 41, and they'll end up in Sullivan. There at the county line will be the Garrison flag that we will talk about. Section Street in Sullivan. From Section Street, then they will wind their way through Washington Street, Wolfenberger to Johnson to the cemetery. We want to head out to live outside the Holman Center for the very latest.
John's got an answer he can go live with about that. I lost the audio.
As you can see, live outside the Holman Center, the officers are lined up. And Scott, silence speaks volumes.
It is, and the officers, even though they know what's going to happen next, they still are kind of curious, for lack of a better term, like wondering, am I going to mess up? What do I have to do here? Even though they know, you see them all standing at, it's called parade rest. Police officers put that in front of them. In the military, they put it behind them. But we have all the gun belts and everything else that tend to get in the way. You'll see them here shortly when the officer in charge comes out, bring them all to attention, and then you'll see a hand salute as they pass Rob by.
Okay. Now, they will be, to your understanding, they'll be bringing the casket out of the tunnel at the Holman Center?
Yes.
Okay. Then they will put it in it's called a hearse now because it is empty.
Right.
It will be called a funeral coach once Rob is along for the ride.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So we will be referring to the vehicle as a funeral coach. That is the difference between the two. Again, 574 vehicles will be in this procession. You had said 42 motorcycles.
Yes.
They'll be leading the procession?
Yeah, well, that's all motorcycles, so some will be in front, when you see with the civilian motorcycles, including Rob's motorcycle as well. But the police officers' motorcycles will be on each side of the coach, in front, all four corners, without a doubt. There's usually 6. So front, back, and then the 4 sides. So you'll see that, and then we have now clicked, if you will, that's how we count them, is 574 police vehicles, or total vehicles altogether.
Total vehicles, okay. This procession will likely take a very long time. It has, 26 miles to go down to Sullivan, to the cemetery there in Sullivan. And with 574 vehicles, that is long and so impressive. The really neat thing about this is, though, you said at the very beginning will be Rob's motorcycle. Rob was a big motorcycle fan, and his best friend will be driving that for him.
That's awesome.
That is awesome. So nice. What an honor for his best friend. You had also given me the number 1,700. 1,700 people were there at the funeral.
That was the last count, and that was down in the bowl itself. It did not count the surroundings, so I don't have those final numbers yet, but that seems about right. 1,800 is what we predicted, and that's probably what we had.
What a tribute and what a blessing for the family to see the community outpouring and the outpouring of the law enforcement brotherhood. Ryan Adamson spoke briefly there for a moment in the funeral, gave very heartfelt words to the family, again referring to Rob as the sheepdog, always the protector of you, the community, the protector of his family. He loved to fish, he loved to target shoot, he had corny jokes and funny dances. It was nice to hear that side of him. He also referred to him as a small town man. Great words, I thought, that were given by the friends and family today of the funeral. It
was. I love the sheepdog. It happens to be one of my favorites as well, and most officers. I mean, we are guardians, not warriors, but there is a time to become a warrior, and
Sure.
Unfortunately, we have to do those sometimes. But guardian versus warrior, no. A combination of both, absolutely.
Interesting. Many also said in the funeral that their hearts are heavy, and the 2 words that they do not ever want to hear is officer down. Unfortunately, you have heard that. You come from a police background, your dad, your brother, you, and you said your mom is the rock. Probably has to be the rock.
Mom's right, yeah. So my father was on the police department, started in 1967, he retired in 96. My grandfather was on the police department.
Oh.
And my brother as well. He was shot in the line of duty. He did survive. But it was funny talking to somebody here a little bit ago. You never really think about it, but my mom is still alive, late 70s, has had to deal with it every day since 1967. And again, when I said earlier, families don't have a choice in this. They don't get to, matter of fact, there's family members now who are now part of another family, are police survivors, a family they never wanted to be a part of, but now they are. And that is phenomenal, what these surviving spouses or significant others do, children do, when somebody passes. They've been there, done that, and they are the rock, they are the foundation. And it's going to be very difficult, and not just what we see now, but in the next coming years. And you're talking a 5-year-old boy is going to have to grow up without a father.
Oh, it is heartbreaking. And Chief Plassey had said that they will always watch over the family in this case. It is a brotherhood that watches over the survivors.
You take them on. It's not by choice. You take them on, and that's what we do as police, and that's what our survivors do. Our Indiana cops concerns the police survivors.
Okay. Again, we are looking live outside the Holman Center, and we are getting word back from our crews, from our cameramen, that it is very quiet. And again, that silence speaks volumes. They are silent in respect for Officer Rob Pitts. Their hearts are broken, and they want to show their respect with that silence.
And they will. They're still probably reeling, or still maybe in a shock and awe of the ceremony that just took place.
Tell us, I'm told that the Honor Guard is coming out now. Tell us what we'll see.
So obviously you see the officer's information. What you'll see is you'll have a flag detail, a colors detail is what we call it, so various flags. You see one of our photographers, she actually is for the state team, but on behalf of the family and Terre Haute PD as well. When you get a different camera angle, you'll see a lot more things that will make sense. This officer you see walking right, coincidentally, is a South Bend officer who's also on the team, but he will man the coach door and will close it once Rob is placed inside. So it's getting close now to them bringing him forward.
Does that give you a better perspective of what we should see?
It does, and even on the inside that you can't see, that it's called a cordon, where the officers are lined up all the way through, and the family will pass through as well. They will all be saluting at a specific point in time when the family passes through, and on top of all this, what the family just sat through, not to mention the last few days or the last 5 days at minimum, they're going to go through this, which is going to be another extreme of emotions.
Okay. Recapping some of what you heard in the funeral, beautiful music tributes, the chaplains, one a retired chaplain, one the current chaplain, saying, you know, that Rob was a hard worker and always gave his all to this community, and ultimately did give his all. The detail of his service. I loved the story that they told to Mom about him not wearing his seatbelt. He didn't want to wear a seatbelt. That is not a story moms want to hear.
Mom probably cringed on that one, I imagine.
Especially if he's in a high-speed chase or something. We certainly don't want to hear that. Rob Pitts understood his calling, they said, and he was good at it. And boy, was it a calling. And it was a calling that he really, it fit him perfectly.
Yeah, it was funny. I mean, to paraphrase, the last line of that part was, when the police need somebody, they called Rob. And that is a clinical definition of a go-getter. Somebody when, like, all other means have failed, and then you send Rob to get that guy. And I'm sure there's many like him, and because Rob would have had no choice but to rub off on others. And
Sure.
that's a thumbs up right there.
Well, and you being a chief of police, you want that guy on your team.
Absolutely, you have to have him.
Sure. One thing, though, you did also mention, too, is that his colleagues that were with him that night, especially his partner, they'll do a lot of second guessing.
Maybe for the rest of their lives, and that's natural, and the officers need to understand that, and hopefully they will. But I can guarantee you, each one of them, what if I would have, and fill in the blank, whatever, if I would have been faster, if I would have been slower, if I would have came from the left or the right, it doesn't matter. Or if I would have been working that day, what could I have done? And that's, you know, one of the things that Senator Donnelly, and you heard him talk, he fought very hard to get a bill passed for officer wellness. And not in the physical component,
Mental
but the
wellness.
psychological.
Sure.
Absolutely. I mean, think about it. Who would have to suffer with the PTSD besides the military? We deal with it every day. I mean, it's
First responders.
Right, absolutely. And it's horrific, but he did that. So this is, first step would be looking out for each other, making sure psychological well-being is taken care of. I mean, cops are great from the shoulder down of taking care of themselves, but very seldom from the neck up. And this is one of those moments where it's a reality check. It's human nature to question what if.
Of course.
But question it with each other. And that's what's important. And we haven't done a good job of that as police.
I think, though, like you said, that's human nature. I've interviewed firefighters who have responded to horrific accidents, and they, too, go through a sense of PTSD afterward. What could they have done to help to
Sure.
save lives? It is human nature. They're going to question themselves and question every second of that evening again. Officer Ryan Pitts died this past Friday, May 4th. He was 45 years old, 16 years with the Terre Haute Police Department, 6 years with the Sullivan Police Department. He is a graduate of Sullivan High School, born in Vincennes. He leaves behind 3 children, also a mother and father, siblings, nieces and nephews. He is on the Special Response Team, the SRT team, a team leader of SRT here in Terre Haute, and a U.S. Marshals Task Force. So he was a very busy guy. Again, the shepherd, the sheepdog of Terre Haute.
I like that. I
do.
really do like that.
I like that too. That's how they called him. We are just waiting now. We're waiting for the casket to be brought out.
Yes, and you'll see, may not be particular order, but you'll see the chaplains, chaplain or chaplains. You'll see the OIC, the officer in charge. You'll see the honorary pallbearers. Then you'll see the actual pallbearers with the casket itself, and then the family members behind. So the officers are waiting there again in a parade rest component. They'll be called to attention when that movement starts to occur, and then you'll hear a hand salute as well.
There are a number of pallbearers today. Chief John Plassey, Assistant Chief Mark Eldred, Assistant Chief Sean King, Sergeant Billy Sheldon with the Street Crimes Unit, Sergeant J.T. Pierce, Officer David Rafter, Officer Kurt Breiniger, and Officer Mark McCammon. They are the pallbearers, along with honorary pallbearers. I cannot say that word. Special Agent Josh Pirtle from the FBI, Senior Trooper Detective Jason Kemp, Indiana State Police, Doug Brooks, Sullivan Police, Jack Snap, a family friend, Fred Norton, and Jason Thomas, also a family friend. So nearly a dozen people involved as pallbearers.
Right, plus another 8 that will do the flag fold as well. So you're talking about 20 people involved specifically, undoubtedly, with the casket itself.
Okay. Again, a show of respect and a show of honor. He's their friend.
Everybody wants to do at least one thing to be a part of this, quite frankly, a glorious send-off, if you will. And,
yes.
And some people will think of it differently, but it is. I mean, that's why we're trying to do whatever we can possible. The best that we can do is the least that we can do. That is what the family and friends are going to remember. It's what everybody's going to remember.
Sure. And the funeral was set up with the family in mind first, the Terre Haute Police Department second, and then military and police tradition third.
Right.
Did it follow a lot of tradition, or was it more of a personal tribute?
The family got a lot of say in how the program itself was going to run inside the Holman Center. Sometimes they'll just leave it up to whomever, but the family had a lot of input on this one. There was a lot of moving parts, but we're used to that. I think the family had a little bit more than most typical families would have on the input. They're just simply asked, and then they may just give a yes or no, but there was conversation.
Now, one thing we did not see inside Holman Center was the strap, the casket strap. Explain that to me.
So there's a casket band, is what they call it, that will be placed around the bottom of the flag so the flag doesn't blow off in inclement weather. Once they get to the cemetery and they go to start doing the flag fold, they'll remove that casket band and fold the flag. But it stays on there from that component so it doesn't come off. Okay, the casket band. And from my understanding from our camera people that are outside, it is starting to rain a little bit. We hope that those raindrops hold off and that nothing severe comes through. A little bit of rain is fine. Maybe some of the officers welcome it because I'm betting it was pretty warm in there. But a heavy rain is usually, that's not very good for us. This will be a long procession once the coach leaves Holman Center with Officer Rob Pitts inside. It will be a very long procession, 26 miles to the cemetery in Sullivan. The first stop will be the Terre Haute Police Department for the final call, and we have News 10's Heather Good there that we will check in with when we make that stop. Explain to us what the final call is. So it'll be usually when an... I'm going to interrupt you. I'm so sorry. Yes. Let's take full audio here and listen in.
The community continues to remember Officer Rob Pitts. Scott, now tell us what we just saw as far as the salute, the call to arms, everything.
So you see the cordon and the officers were in formation. They were brought to attention as Rob passed. As soon as he passed, they were called to present arms, which is salute. They maintained that salute the entire way until Rob was placed into the coach and the door was closed. That's when you heard you heard order arms.
Order arms.
It means you can drop your salute now. And then shortly after, or shortly thereafter, you heard dismissed. That means all the officers are dismissed from formation. So now what you'll see is a mad scramble. There's two processions, if you will. There's a go-ahead procession, which will immediately head out to the cemetery. Now there's already people out there, but these are the ones who play a pivotal role out there, whether it's with the flag detail out there, meaning there's just many components that are involved out there. So they'll all go ahead now. And some people will think that's the procession. It's not the procession itself, but they need to get there probably about a half hour minimum to an hour before the procession itself arrives, because there's a lot of setup to do and practice still.
News 10's John Swanner is live outside the Holman Center. Let's head out to him. John?
And you mentioned it several times during the last half hour or so about how quiet it was out here. You could literally hear a pin drop. It's probably the quietest I've ever heard outside the Holman Center in my entire life. And right now we do have some activity. You can see behind me the family of Rob Pitts. They're getting inside some SUVs that will take them away to the cemetery down in Sullivan, where Rob is from, to lay him to rest. Now you'll see the t-shirts that they are wearing. Most family members wore this gray t-shirt, and it was designed by Hoosier Hits in Linton, Indiana. My understanding from a family friend is that Hoosier Hits, the owner of that business in Linton, is a family friend of Rob Pitts, and he designed this shirt himself, printed it, and it's actually for sale. And my understanding is that all proceeds from the sale of these t-shirts in honor of Rob Pitts will go back to the family and help in any way that they can. So that's Hoosier Hits down in Linton, Indiana, that designed that shirt, and we certainly appreciate that. It's another example of how the community can come together in times like this to bring some good, to bring some light into these very dark situations. When you lose a man like Officer Pitts, and talking to some people outside here along the sidewalk outside the Holman Center, you just heard a lot of stories about what a wonderful man he is and what a wonderful man he was. We also saw a lot of dignitaries here in attendance to watch the casket to be loaded onto what is now the hearse. Mayor Duke Bennett of Terre Haute, Mayor Clint Lamb of Sullivan, and their wives joined them. We also saw representatives from the U.S. Attorney's Office, including Attorney Brad Blackington, who's a deputy U.S. attorney who handles a lot of drug cases down here, and I'm sure that he worked very closely with Rob on various situations. We can also say that State Representatives Alan Morrison and Bob Heaton were in attendance, and they were right here to watch things. And now it looks like the procession is going to be getting going here very shortly. It appears that they're going to be at least going around Holman Center, going down 8th Street, and then getting on to 13th Street. And then from there, we have all the procession information for you on our website if you'd like to get out now and pay your respects to Officer Rob Pitts. I have a member of my family that's along 13th Street. She told me via Facebook that there is a lot of people on 13th Street, so you may have a hard time finding a spot, but that's a good thing here, because it's always good to see a community, as Patrice mentioned earlier, that this is a community that's very generous, and they also are very patriotic and very supportive of our law enforcement. So it's good to see this, that they're out and supporting some of them maybe they have never even met. And so the procession will be getting going here very shortly, and we'll bring you more updates from Holman Center as they become available. But for now, let's send it back to Patrice in the studio.
And you're absolutely right, John, that it is a good thing to see, especially the school children. We are told that several schools in Terre Haute are letting out early to line up along that procession route to watch, to learn. This is history, this is tradition that children can really learn from.
Yeah, it doesn't go away. You can't hide it. You can't do anything about it. And I think that it's only fair that the kids know exactly what happened.
There are several schools in Sullivan that are letting out early today. They're dismissing early today in honor of their Sullivan friend and resident, Rob Pitts. They too want to learn about this history and to honor him. Now, the very first stop, we keep saying this, the very first stop will be at the Terre Haute Police Department for the final call or the end of watch. There's all sorts of ways to say it. Yeah,
or 1042. That's the code that is still used, believe it or not. That just simply means that on a normal day-to-day, an officer is going off duty. They call 1042 or end of watch or end of duty, and then go home. In this case, this will be the last time that Rob or his fellow officers will ever hear 1042 again.
Rob will be truly going home.
For the final time.
The lead motorcycle of this procession will be Rob's best friend on Rob's bike that Scott says is a very handsome motorcycle. He loved to ride his motorcycle, and Rob's best friend will be in that group. Now, Scott, do you think he'll be in this group here? You see all these motorcycles?
No, these will be the escort officers in front and behind and on the sides of that. And you'll see anywhere from 4 to 6 immediately surrounding the coach. So you'll have one on each corner, one in front and one behind.
This procession will be very, very impressive. It will be about 26 miles long. It will include a number of vehicles, 570 something we said, 574 vehicles, and also including 42 motorcycles. So it will be a long, beautiful procession.
And those motorcycles that you saw there, the majority of them, all but anywhere from 4 to 6, will be blocking intersections that aren't covered to pass through to make it safe for the procession itself. A lot of people don't realize there's still work being done, even though this isn't just a drive to get from point A to point B. There's a lot of aesthetics that are involved, a lot of obstacles to overcome, and those officers on the motorcycles are going from intersection to intersection to make sure they're covered, and those that aren't, they'll sit there and make sure that they are.
Keep everyone safe.
Yes.
And it is my understanding that INDOT, the Indiana Department of Transportation, has been in on this as well. 641 is being used, 41 is being used, along with City Street. So they've worked closely with the city on this and the Terre Haute Police Department.
I'm sure there's a whole lot more as well. Probably, you know, the code enforcement, the street departments within the city itself or the surrounding areas. There's a lot of people that, again, behind the scenes that probably haven't slept in several days, not just worried about this, but trying to get everything right for everyone else, for someone else. We're not the only public safety component.
Well, they want to get everything right for Rob.
Yes, absolutely.
Please be patient if you are heading out throughout Terre Haute and Sullivan. There will be lots of streets closed or blocked, or if they would just temporarily it will be, how'd you call it, chaotic?
Yes, organized chaos.
Organized chaos.
Yes, we believe it. We know what we're doing, and most people watching this maybe not know any different. But this is the grand scheme of things. Obviously, is to give Rob our last, best, and final. But we still want to have a public safety component in mind as well. So
Sure.
We have to be very aware of that, and we are.
Tell us what we're seeing. I understand Chief Plassey is in the black SUV. Is that correct? Would that
Yes.
be right?
So he'd be, obviously, Terre Haute PD would be the lead agency. Then you'll see all the other agencies behind. So THPD is doing the initial escort. You'll see the motorcyclists go ahead, and then you'll see, after what you're seeing here with the family, you'll see all the other agencies. And you watch, it's kind of like, I don't know, it'll kind of look like a maze, and like a bunch of things running through the maze where they start to intertwine. It's really quite a different perspective than I have, because I'm usually on the ground right there when it happens. I don't get to see what I'm seeing now, so it's a little different for me as well. Is there
symbolism to this? Is it symbolic, the formation or the order that they go?
There's no symbolism to it. It just seems predominantly tradition.
Traditional.
The escort itself, because we're still escorting the coach to the final resting place. But with the intermingling, when you see cars coming out of lots or off the side streets or the parking garage, you look in amazement like I do and go, how on earth are they making this happen? But you'll see how they do it.
That final destination, the final resting place, the committal service will be at Center Ridge Cemetery off of Johnson Street in Sullivan. They will wind down. First, they will make a stop at the Terre Haute Police Department for the end of watch call. They will wind down to 13th Street South, eventually getting onto 641, then to 41 to Sullivan, and several streets along Sullivan. I guarantee you, because I know this Wabash Valley very well, I guarantee you there will be thousands and thousands of people lining these streets, showing their respect to Officer Rob Pitts, because that's what the Wabash Valley does.
I can imagine they did it 7 years ago, too.
Good people.
Yeah.
7 years ago, just 7 years ago, we did this for Brent Long, and people really poured out their hearts and emotions for him as well. You are looking at the start of the procession there. It still has not stepped off yet. That is Chief John Plassy's vehicle, his wife there next to him. I assume once he gets in there, it starts?
They're actually going to sit for a while
Oh, they will.
because you have many people that attend and still have a long way to go to walk to their cars to be in the procession.
Sure.
The only thing that is taking off right now or has taken off right now is the initial the honor guard people that have duties at the cemetery prior to the arrival of the procession.
Okay. 574 people are in that procession. You just see a very snippet of it there on top of the parking garage in downtown Terre Haute. They are lined up, ready to go to follow the coach and to follow Rob Pitts to his final destination. The very first stop, as we have said, will be the end of watch call. That will be a typically very moving time.
Yes, you will hear the radio traffic. They'll be calling the officer. I don't want to put too much ahead because this is a very difficult time for the family on top of everything else, but to hear this and then to have a dispatcher or whomever is going to talk the 1042 or the end of watch, and for the officers, this is the only time that the procession itself will stop, though. It won't stop at any other time.
Okay, but this call is steeped in tradition.
It is. Again, the whole 1042 component, or we call it 1042, is there is no more. This is the final call. Rob will never get another one.
You're looking at several departments that have come in to visit, to pay their respects. There were state police, Franklin police. There were police from New York, Arizona. You said all over the place.
Absolutely. Several from Illinois, New York. What you're seeing here is likely going to be, that's the advance party is what we call it, but to head to the cemetery.
There's Illinois police, Carmel police, Indianapolis police, and in addition to all of these police officers who are here for the funeral, there are also a number of police officers all across the Wabash Valley that have volunteered their time to keep the community safe. We still have to have police watching the community so that their brothers and sisters can go to this funeral.
Very good point. We do not, again, it's all about public safety. We don't leave anywhere our community unattended. And we just had a visit a little bit ago with a state trooper who was helping out, maybe to serve some calls and just do whatever he needed to do to keep this going as it is.
Conservation officer vehicles went by. There's KZ police that just went by. I know a number of firefighters have wanted to be a part of this service. Lake County, Jasonville, we have all sorts of vehicles there. It's just impressive to see the brotherhood and the camaraderie. Bicknell, Vincennes, Speedway, just the camaraderie is just unbelievable.
It is. On top of that, when you throw in Virginia, New York, Colorado, Aurora, Illinois, Dallas, Chicago, and a couple other places, several other places from Illinois. I mean, and I guarantee you'll have Kentucky, Ohio, and others that are here as well.
You're looking at live pictures of people from the community that have come out of their places of work, their schools, just to say thank you to Officer Rob Pitts. These in particular are employees of Clabber Girl. That's Clabber Girl that we're looking at right now, coming out to show their respects to fallen Officer Rob Pitts and to say thank you for giving the ultimate sacrifice. Look at that. That's amazing. We're going to see much more. This is going to be a small snippet of the people I know that will be out. Their hands are on their hearts, their hats are off. It's just, again, symbolism of saying thank you.
Yeah, that's a thumbs up, shout out to the family and to the police officers. So we were combining both. Again, now we have a family that the family didn't want to be a part of, but now we're all in this together.
Sure. That procession, the coach has not left yet. You see that still stationary. Once that does, it will wind all the way down about 26 miles to Sullivan, Indiana, to Center Ridge Cemetery, where Rob Pitts will be laid to rest, his final resting place there in Sullivan. A graduate of Sullivan High School, served on the police department there for 6 years before coming to the Terre Haute Police Department for 16 years.